And a happy new year 2021 to everybody at Faster Masters Rowing Radio. I'm Rebecca Caro and I'm really pleased to be back. This is Faster Masters Rowing Radio, where having a rowing coach only makes you better, and following a program gives you a true pathway to becoming a confident sculler who's respected by your peers. You can become the athlete that you want to row with by following us here live online. We do a weekly podcast show live here in YouTube and on Facebook, and we love to welcome people who are watching us live. Now, my partner, as ever, is Marlene Royal. Hey, Marlene, Happy New Year.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's good to be here. It seems like it's been a long time since it was 2020.
I definitely agree with that. And I've had a really nice holiday. It's been, of course, it's summer where I live in New Zealand, and I've had the opportunity to go away and take a break. I went and stayed with some friends who have a ocean-going mast single, which I can row on this little estuary. Mm-hmm. And I set off doing my 3 5-minute pieces, and then I had to do 3 1-minute pieces as well because I'm following the program. And I had lots of hazards, because there's like mangroves, and then there's a couple of marker buoys that you have to navigate around, and there's a telegraph pole like right in the middle of the estuary. So, there's a little bit of steering, and I wasn't so used to the water. Anyway, I'm on the last bit of the third 5-minute piece, and suddenly my seat sort of feels like I've got my shirt jammed in it. You know that feeling when it like kind of hesitates a little bit?
Yeah, your tail's too long.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, well, it can't be because I'm wearing a row suit. And I take another stroke. I was like, no, that's definitely really odd. And I'm 3 strokes from the end of the piece. So I stop early. And I look down and I can't see anything wrong, but I put my finger down so I can like feel the track. And I'm feeling the track on the side where it felt like it jammed. There is no wheel. I have run the wheel off.
Oh no! I thought it was going to be something else. You know what I thought it was going to be? What happened to us one time? We're also rowing a Mas Arrow, but this was down in Florida, rowing around Anna Maria Island some years ago. And I'm in one Mas Arrow, and my husband's in another Mas Arrow, and I look over to him, and all of a sudden the whole Mas Arrow, he's like going up, the whole boat is going up and down in the water. I thought, what on earth is going on? And this dolphin had come underneath him and was scratching his back on the bottom of the boat, and the whole boat was going up and down. So I thought you were going to say that you thought something was bumpy, but somebody was underneath you pushing you up out of the water.
Well, the only thing that might have been underneath me there are stingrays. You know those big triangular flatfish? They are big. I mean,
they're really big.
I went out another day in a double kayak with my host, and which is great. So I got some really good coaching from him. And as we're paddling along, the water in New Zealand is super clear. And I'm looking down, and all I see is this big kind of diamond-shaped shadow. And I'm like, oh, look down there.
Yeah, when I used to train on the Intercoastal in Sarasota, they would swoop right out of the water and like just fly over your oars.
Oh no, these are bottom feeders. I mean, they will sting, but no, I've never heard of them jumping like that.
Yeah, they were coming out there, but in Florida you have to shuffle your feet. If you're in shallow water, you have to shuffle your feet because they sit down on the sand. Oh dear. Hey, so did you have to row back arms and body, or what did you do?
I did. I was like, I so appreciate para rowing now, and I had to go against the stream, but luckily it wasn't too far. And my host was extremely nice about it, and he happened to be going off on a little trip himself with his girlfriend, and they were going near the Laszlo boat builders in Cambridge here in New Zealand, and he took the seat and he took the wheel because it's a completely standard undercarriage, and he said, I'll just get another one. He said, it's 25 years old,
yeah, that'll do it, right?
Salt water. But I've never rode a wheel off a seat before.
Yeah. I haven't had that experience either.
So rowing accidents are something that come up a lot when I'm doing my book. So I have to show off. This is my Rowing Tales 2020, the print book. It is physically here. I have to say the mail is really slow coming from the US to New Zealand. There just aren't that many ships or aeroplanes coming here anymore. So it's terribly slow. So I ordered this when I published it basically in November, and it just got here.
I'm got it. Oh boy.
Super happy. And I do get a lot of really good submissions from people about the unexpected happening. So I think I need the dolphin scratching story. Yeah. Now we have some people watching us live. So hello, everybody. Tell us who you are and where you're watching from. And we'll bring you onto the screen, your messages at least, in due course. But Marlene, you've been reading the rowing magazine.
Yes. And one of our Faster Masters athletes, CeCe Aguda, has a photo in, this is the Rowing News magazine. This is their photo issue of the year that comes out. And one of her photos was selected for the submission. So I thought we should show that because it's a pretty interesting, very interesting photograph.
So for people who are listening rather than watching, it's a 360 circular photograph of her in her single scull, and you can see all of the horizon. So you can see behind her, it just looks like clear water. But at the bottom of the picture, you can see buildings. Is that right?
Yeah, there's houses and cottages. And it looks like you can even see her GoPro on her boat here. But it's quite interesting.
We know she rows up in one of the sounds north of Seattle.
Yeah, it's right? Whidbey Island near Puget Sound.
Yeah, so awesome. High fives to you, CeCe, and well done for getting that published. And what a stunning photograph.
Yeah, it's very, very unusual too, which is probably why they selected it. Very nice. And
Jeanette is watching us live from Ontario. Hey.
Jeanette, you changed your picture. That doesn't look like you.
What is
You're
it?
older than that, Jeanette.
Too funny. I think we can all be happily in denial from time to time. Now, when Marlene and I got online to prep for today's show, we both instantly discussed some extremely sad news about the death of the Canadian Olympic champion, Kathleen Heddle. And there's a very nice video that we found online that we'd very much like to show. So Kathleen was a 3-time Olympic gold medalist in both the double, the pair, and the 8. And this was a TV interview that was recorded with her 24 years ago, where she discusses her comeback before the 1996 Atlanta Games. And I think you'll enjoy watching this.
We're good friends. We have an understanding of each other, and we need a lot of time away from each other. Any partnership, you're going to have conflict and problems, but I think overall we get along really well, especially considering how different our approach to things is.
A lot of people figure we're opposites, but I don't necessarily figure we're opposites in everything as much as that I talk a lot more. If I have an opinion, I'm going to let you know what it is. And Kathleen's the type of person who can hold that opinion to herself. I have this urge to share my opinion with you.
I needed some time off, and when I decided to retire after 92, I wasn't sure whether it was a retirement or just time off. But I think there was a small part in my mind that always kept it open to come back to rowing.
I knew that the best rowing partner I'd ever had was Kathleen, so I wanted to make sure she always knew the door was open.
I think I told people it was a retirement because I didn't want to constantly be asked, are you coming back this year?
We went into the 94 season, and I was doing the single again. Silken was also doing the single, and one of us was going to get knocked out because you can only have one boat per event.
Marnie was second to Silken, and it sort of left her in an awkward spot because there's no other women scullers at the time that she could row with.
And that night from Switzerland, I called Kathleen up, and I just got her answering machine. I said, "Hey, Kath, how you doing? Racing went really well here today. Silken beat me. And, that sucks, but I feel all right about it. And do you want to come back? Do you want to row a double?"
I hadn't been rowing at all, and I'd been doing just fitness stuff on my own. And at the time, I wasn't sure if it was maybe a good idea or not.
I told the coaches the next day what I'd done. They sort of knew I'd been doing stuff like this.
And we agreed that it was going to be an experiment. We weren't going to put a lot of pressure on ourselves for that summer, for that 94 Worlds.
And everyone on the team knew that she's a great athlete. And everyone was just like, this is going to be exciting. Let's see what happens. And so we started training, and 7 weeks later, we were silver medalists.
I came back because I really enjoy the journey, I guess you call it, of getting there and the challenge.
What an amazing piece of footage that is.
Yeah.
That's historic footage.
I have to go back and watch their races now.
Yeah, I think so. 1992 was an incredible pinnacle for the Canadian women's sweep team. They won all of the Olympic gold medals in sweep. Can you imagine that happening today?
Yeah, that was amazing. It was amazing. And last June, I have to skip back one June. I coached with Al Morrow for 2 weeks at Craftsbury, and Al Morrow was Kathleen and Marnie's coach. And he was actually the coach of the whole women's squad that year in 92 when they had such an incredible performance. And, he said they were so different, and they had their own way of doing things, but it worked and the boat went. And, there were just idiosyncratic things that you just had to accept about it. And, sometimes things don't have to look absolutely perfect to work really, really well. And they were very different, and they had some differences in their rowing technique, but as a combination, they were a very, very strong force. And, that's one of those secret things about the double. The double or a pair, it's a boat that has its own rules, I would say.
Yeah, there's always a thing that elite coaches say, which is that if I correct this so-called technical error, what if it makes them go slower? And obviously Al had to wrestle with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, when you look at if somebody has a natural style and they're very effective with it, as a coach, sometimes you have to make a decision not to disturb that. You can still have idiosyncrasies and go very, very fast. That's different than like real boat stopping, things. But there are, many, many great Olympic champions have idiosyncratic styles. And that's why when you're watching really elite level rowers, sometimes you have to think, wait a minute, she's successful or he's successful. It may or may not fit your body type to row like that. So, everybody is different.
Yeah, but having watched that video, and despite what you said about their pair being idiosyncratic, watching them doing those drills and the double, what beautiful blade work.
Yes.
And what great hands. I know we talk hands so
exactly.
often.
The first thing, that's just the first thing that I noticed, that their handles are level, right? Their left is leading the right. And it's the first thing I looked at. So, but yeah.
So I'll put the link to that in the show notes. So if people want to go watch it for themselves, watch it for the content, but watch it also for that beautiful technique. Now we have some watchers here. Hello to Tony from Sherbrooke, Quebec. Oh, he says the mail to Quebec from the USA is also very slow. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It
I
is. It has been since COVID started. It definitely has been. So.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I'm going to show you my photo that I have behind me. Each week, I try and find a new photograph to put onto the green screen and take a look at what we have here. So this is an awesome picture of a crew having a crew dinner inside their boat club. And this came from William Hutton, who put it onto the Masters Rowing International Facebook group. He doesn't make it clear whether this was done before or after COVID, but either way, what a great image.
Mm-hmm.
Now, moving on. Faster Masters has been doing quite a lot of planning for what we're going to do through 2021 as a business. And obviously, this affects you guys, our lovely listeners and watchers, and our email subscribers and our customers. As you all know, we're on a mission to make Masters Rowing a really fun part of the sport of rowing, and to build a lot of respect for us, but also to provide custom advice that's suitable for the older athlete. Whether you're a racer, whether you just want to row to get fit, whether you want to improve your technique, or you have some other motivation, you are our crowd and we're here for you. To date, we have quietly built our program. So Marlene and I launched fastermastersrowing.com in April of 2019. So we're coming up for our second birthday. And we started off just selling online ebooks, which we had previously written together in 2016 when we launched a service called Faster Masters Gold, which was 8 separate modules of detail about different elements of training and racing as a masters athlete in rowing and in sculling. Then we decided to add a training program, a monthly program that anyone can do, that they can adapt to their own particular circumstances and needs. This is called the Faster Masters program, and it comes with 6 modules. The 6 modules are a water training program or erg training program for people who are indoor rowers, a land training strength program, a performance article, a technique article, a rowing lifestyle article, and a bonus, which is a nice surprise. And we have a ton of people, thank you all, who subscribe every month to buy these programs. So each month when you subscribe, you get the current month and the prior month. So you always have 2 months on the go at the same time. Then COVID hit, and we realized that a lot of things were going to be different. And so we launched an annual subscription at a discount. And we have also since then started adding in a lot of new small things. So we've done a couple of expert interviews. We've done some public town halls. We've done some private town halls where we have invited subscribers, paying customers, to come and do questions and answer sessions with us. We have also done invitation-only expert seminars, one of which we did, which was done in November, was the Transitioning to Winter seminar. And we've got a whole load of new things in our little pipeline. So the first thing that we know is going to happen is that we're going to change the price of our annual subscription. At the moment, if you pay monthly, you pay $39 a month to get on the individual program. We also have programs for crew where the price is higher, but if you divide it by a double or a quad or an 8, it obviously nets out as cheaper for each individual. And we also offer a service for entire clubs or a coach who's coaching a club so that you can get the program and then you can use it and adapt it for your own circumstances. But the annual subscription is currently priced at $300 for an entire year, which is a fantastic bargain. We recognize that, but we're going to be putting the price up so that it's closer to being an equivalent of the $39 per month. So that's going to happen on the 1st of February. And we're just giving you early warning. If you're sitting on the fence, be aware. Now, the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding in some new Q&As and expert seminars. We're not going to tell you who it is that we're going to have on as our guest, but we know that these are hugely popular when we've run them in the past. So we very much look forward to surprising and delighting you with some of the topics that we've got coming up there. Also in the program, the current month is we're having a detailed focus on force curves. A lot of us are all training on ergs at the moment, and most modern ergs offer the opportunity to display a force curve. So later on in this show today, Marlene and I are going to dive into a little bit of detail about force curves, because actually this is a two-part program. We've done an initial video this month, January, and we're going to have some follow-ups looking at particular challenges, what to do when you have a wonky curve, how your technique translates into the curve, and so on. And that's what we're going to be publishing in February. One of the innovations that actually happened in December, but we know a lot of people haven't yet gotten onto it, is daily lessons. So Marlene, do you want to explain what the daily lessons are?
Sure. And actually, we published this in our January program first. So this was one of our new innovations for 2021. So if you are a program subscriber, when you go into the training module, there is, as you know, things are broken down into lessons. So our overall training program is on one document. So when you open up that PDF, it has an introduction, and then it has all your sessions in a weekly format, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's all on one document. But what we did in January was we also created little, I called them quick look sessions. So I created little separate lessons so that if you want to go, if you've, say you're, you want to check something on your phone, and I don't know if you're going to the gym versus COVID, but say you're on the go and you want to do your workout. If you want, you can go sign into your program and just go to the quick look lesson, say for the January 1K, this is your Sunday session. So if you just want to see what the workout is that day, just go to that lesson and you can read it on your phone if you happen to be mobile, or if you didn't want to print it out and you just want to check it really quickly. So I went through and I did a quick look separate lesson for each day of each of our two programs.
So what I'm going to show you is I click the button to mark this complete, and then the screen refreshes. And here on the top right, I can just click, here it's automatically gone to the next one, which is Monday, which says it's a recovery day. So there's not very much there, but then I can click to the right to the next lesson and the screen refreshes, and here's your Tuesday session. So this is what is scheduled for Tuesday.
Yeah, so they're shortcuts essentially, but you know, they are also on the full document. And I still like that people read the full training program, because we do write an introduction there about what we're doing that month and what the point of certain sessions are.
Yeah, the point of the sessions is really important so that you understand how the different components build up to make the overall whole. And if you remember, we have core sessions and optional extra sessions so that you can work out what's right for you and you get the correct balance of different workouts, which leads us very neatly onto a discussion about your next race versus your peak event. Now, Marlene got a question from a listener.
Yes, well, I had a question from one of our Faster Masters athletes, and she was a new subscriber, and she said, well, you know, I have a race in 4 weeks, so which program should I follow? And in our current programs right now, we have two different programs. One program is focused on 1K base training. That is looking towards later in the spring, which might be our Australian athletes peak, or if we have nationals in North America, would extend to that. The other one, some people are training for an erg event or an early March event. That's our second program for right now. But the answer to the question is, if you have to think about what will be the main event of your season, or one of two main events of your season. So if your main event is your national championships, and that's going to happen in May, or that happens in August, you might have races before then, but you don't want to necessarily peak for those races. Those races fit into your program as part of your competitive season. But, you know, you're not always doing a full taper. You might rest a day, maybe an extra 2 days if you've got traveling or something like that. But a next race is part of your seasonal competition, and it builds into when you actually aim for your peak race. And the way we design the program is, when we're aiming for a peak race, you know, there's going to be a full taper period before that happens. And so the phases are worked out that, you know, we want you at your best at that time of your peak race. So you might have races leading up to that, but it does not mean that each race is in and of itself a peak race.
That's really clear, and thank you so much. So bear in mind that there are actually two programs every month. If you're at the moment training for your 1K being your peak event in the springtime, or a long distance, we've called it 5K, but recognizing that some long distance races are more and less than that, that's going to be quite important. You need to be on the correct program.
Yes, yeah. And I think one thing to explain is, like, right now we have some people who are doing a March peak, which might be an erg race. If you're in Europe, sometimes sometimes like the Heineken Regatta is March. But once we get past March, we'll have two 1K programs going, because the Southern Hemisphere's championships are earlier than the Northern American championships are. So there'll be two 1K programs, but one focuses on a peak in May, or when that date is, and the other one focuses on late August or even September, when FISA World Masters are. So you'll see those things will diverge after we get past this March peak.
Yeah, and just about long distance races and virtual races, I have heard on the grapevine that the London Women's 8's Head of the River, which I think is at the end of March, has definitely been cancelled for the on-water event. So there's a possibility that that might be a virtual race. And as you regular listeners know, my crew loved doing some of the virtual races in the autumn. And in fact, over the Christmas period, I got sent a medal from the head of the Schuylkill with a little engraving of Thomas Eakins' pear.
That's very nice.
I know. I don't think we even won anything. I think we came second, but they sent us a medal anyway. Maybe they were just so keen to have some competitors. Let's move on to a quick look of some of our visitors. So hello. Oh, CJ Pace says that's a great idea. I'm obviously not sure how far back it was that you put that in, but CJ, very nice to know. And hello from
Jess.
Jess. Nice to see you, Jess. That's so cool. Now, back to our current focus on force curves. Back in the day, I used to be an agent selling the Row Perfect rowing simulator, which was the first dynamic rowing machine. So there are two types of indoor rowing machine. There are fixed head and floating head machines. The basic difference is that if the flywheel section, which is called the head in engineering speak, moves up and down the bar, it's a floating head machine. And good examples of these include the RP3, include the Ortec simulator and the Concept 2 Dynamic. Or if it's a fixed head, it's a traditional erg where the flywheel doesn't move and your slide just moves up and down. In the floating head machines, the seat also moves. So it's You'll see videos of me using them. Force curves are a really great way of graphically illustrating how you deliver your power. So back to the Kathleen Heddle description about her in her pair, and the fact that she and her pair's partner looked like they were moving very differently. If their boat went fast, you can make a base assumption that they were probably delivering their power very synchronized, even though it didn't look it perhaps from the outside. And the force curves that you can now get on the rowing machine displays are a super way of giving you some insight about yourself and how you deliver power. The power is illustrated in a line. It's a line graph, and typically it's a kind of bell curve shape that starts from the catch, rises up to a peak, and then falls away. Now, the shape of your curve, where the peak is relative to the end points, and the area under the curve are all unique to you, and you're trying to row as consistently as possible. But when you get to coming into crew boats, it's really useful if you and your crewmates can make small adjustments so that your shapes are as similar as possible. Because that then means that if you can do the same thing on the water as you can on the rowing machine, you're going to be delivering your power at similar times with a peak at the similar point in the stroke. And that really helps with making a rowing boat go fast. Marlene, what's the main thing that you look for when you're assessing your own force curve?
Well, what you're looking for, one, you're looking for the line to be smooth. Okay, so that's going to show that you've got a smooth overlap of power transfer, say from the legs transitioning to the body, transitioning to the arms. So if you see any little bumps or things that look jagged, that shows slippage between your linkage, if you want to think about it that way. So you want a smooth curve. You want a curve that it almost looks like a bell curve. And now, you know, sometimes depending which boat you're in, you might have it coming up a little earlier when you first start the legs. For some, it may be more equal, like more for a single, it's maybe more of an equal looking curve with the peak at the top. But essentially, you want to look at how high is the curve and how long is the curve. So the length is how wide the base of the curve is relates to your stroke length, and how high the peak is relates to how much power you've got on the handle. But you're looking for a smooth increase and also decrease. Like, you don't want to see it peak and then it come down at a straight line. It should be a gentle curve. So.
Yeah. Now, the area under the curve is your total power. And again, here there are some things that you can look at adjusting and adapting. So, for example, we all know that eights and quads go faster than singles and doubles. You may want to shorten your stroke length and have a higher peak if you are rowing in a fast boat, because typically, because the water is moving past the boat faster than it is when you're in a small boat, you need to put the blade in the water and apply the power more quickly. A good analogy to think of is if you imagine you have an upside down bicycle in front of you, it's resting on its handlebar and saddles, and you take your finger and you put it on the front wheel, the wheel that doesn't have any gears on it. And if you just push it, the wheel starts to turn, okay? Now, if you want the wheel to go faster, you then have to put your finger back on the tire again and give it another push to keep the spin going. And if you want it to accelerate, you've got to push faster. And what you have to do is drop your finger onto the tire quicker and move it faster in order to accelerate it, because you've got to connect your finger to that tire at the speed at which it's already circling. And that's exactly the same of what's happening in the rowing boat and what's happening on the erg. So when you want a more concentrated power, if you think the total area under the curve is your strength, that's what you've got to offer, no more, no less. You can make it last a long time with a shallower peak, or you can make it peak quite high and not be quite so long. So like squishing it down. And those are things that you can work on when you're doing your long distance training. You might sit on the erg and decide that maybe once every 10 minutes, you're going to do a minute focusing on making your power more concentrated into a shorter stroke, but with a higher peak. And that's just good practice. Just see if you can do it. See what changes you need to make. Notice how your leg drive changes in order to deliver that higher peak. And then notice what you do when you go back to your more normal rowing.
Yeah, it's quite telling, especially if you can also see a video of the person who is rowing and then look at their curve, because you can see if their leg drive is too fast or they shoot their slide a little bit, you're going to see you're going to see that slippage in the force curve. Or you see someone starts to swing, but they have absolutely no completion of the drive, you're going to see, oh, it looks great, and then bleh, it just drops off, it just kind of goes, so it really, and if you're by yourself training on the indoor rower, it's a very, very helpful tool to work on consistency.
Yeah, because every stroke is in live real time. It builds as you are actually rowing it. One of the features that you can have on the RP3, which you don't have on the Concept 2, is that you can set a template curve. So you can set an ideal and then you can row to try and match that. So if you're rowing in a crew boat and, typically somebody's stronger than someone else, a good way to use that person, if they can make a great shaped curve, is to set that curve as the template and then have the whole crew follow that curve. So even if you aren't physically strong enough to achieve the same peak, the same area under the curve, or the same length as the key person, you can row to the same shape. So you can make like a little double line with yours just a little bit below. Mm-hmm. And obviously then you can aspire to improve.
That's an excellent feature. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you are a Faster Masters member, the bonus for January is to have Marlene and me assess your force curve. You send us in your details and we'll give you some private and individual feedback. And we've already had a few people come in with, one guy came back after with the assessment to say, I've always known that I have this kink in my curve, and now you've explained why, and also, importantly, what I can do to change to try and fix that.
Yeah, so if you go to the January bonus module, and that might be for the individual program or as well as the magazine subscribers or the club program, we have that. The instructions are there how to send it to us through our support ticket.
Excellent. So we look forward to obviously getting a few more of those.
Yeah, I love looking at them. They're really informative. And then to get the feedback afterwards, to see what changes were made are great.
Which is brilliant. Any more on force curves?
I think it's a good overview for now. Just get people start paying attention, see what it's doing.
Yeah. It is an important part of rowing is to be careful, not careless with your body movements, not necessarily just technique, just your body movements. And one of the things that I know can be challenging is if you're listening to music, sometimes you can't hear the flywheel, and you can learn a lot from the volume of the flywheel. But there's nothing wrong with listening to music. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but you definitely need to keep that sort of front of the mind awareness. And if you're the sort of person who your attention like drifts off, give yourself a clear monitor. Like I mentioned earlier, 1 minute in 10, you have a specific focus. So, every time the clock comes up to the 10 or the 20, you can, focus on something. You can do that more frequently if you want. You could just say, right, I'm going to do my focus every 2 minutes or every 3 minutes. Something that's easy to spot, every even number that comes up on the timer of the clock. And that really helps you to get back on track. And of course, you're trying to get to a point where you can make your strokes all the same. And that takes a lifetime, doesn't it?
Yeah, consistency. And then, first at 18, then at 20, then at 22, then
Absolutely. Now we've got another live watcher. Hello, Charles. Very nice to see you. So Charles is I'm a long-time fan of his. He rows in San Francisco, and you can see in his little photo there, he's in his Carl Douglas single cut. Charles, you're going to have to remind me who is the rower that you named your boat after? Because I met him through a online discussion forum called Rec Sport Rowing. And as he was ordering the boat, he spent a lot of time talking about who he was going to name the boat after. And there's a big backstory there. And I'm hoping that you'll remind me who she is. But Charles first introduced me to the Open Water Sculling Centre in Sausalito, which is where he rows out of. And when the water is flat, he rows his beautiful Carl Douglas. And when it's choppy, he, like me, got into the
Moss arrows. Yep.
That's right. So very nice to see you live online with us today. And in the bad old days when I was able to fly and went through San Francisco, I used to always try and take a stop off there for a couple of days so that I could go down there and go rowing with him and his rowing buddies. So I have had many lovely rows out of the rowing club there in Sausalito. I think it's now coming up end of our very first show. Welcome back to 2021. And we very much look forward to seeing you again at the same time next week. As ever, Marlene and I publish in advance the link so that you can bookmark it. If you follow us on the YouTube channel, you can subscribe and then it notifies you, if you choose to accept notifications, of when the upcoming shows are. And that may be useful. We certainly love having live watchers with us. You guys add a ton to our enjoyment of doing the weekly show. This show is part of the Rowing Chat Network. You can get email notifications of our shows by joining our mailing list at rowing.chat. And please remember that Faster Masters Rowing Radio is about where having a rowing coach makes you better, following a program gives you a true pathway to becoming a confident sculler who's respected by your peers. You can become the athlete you want to row with. So till next time, it's goodbye from me.
And see everyone next week. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.